Is up, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, day traders, closet swing traders. Hope you guys are doing absolutely fantastic. Hope you guys had a great weekend, and I hope you guys are ready to go. Not too much on the news end of things. So as far as meetings, we don't really have too much in the way this week. I think Friday is the bigger day. So Friday we should have the employment numbers. So really we're kind of sitting a little bit light in terms of things that could cause a little bit of chaos in the markets and just some back and forth, things like that. So should be we have JP talking Tuesday, Wednesday, and there is some other Fed speaking throughout the week, just kind of sprinkled in. That's about it, and I don't see too much being said from honestly any of that I don't think we've already gotten from the Fed. So last weekend we were just built up really heavy on just a lot of different Fed meetings and things like that. I don't think anything's really going to come out that's going to sway the market too much. Obviously, it's going to have some effect, but the bigger play in the market, the bigger thing to watch for really only comes on Friday, which is going to be some of the just unemployment job numbers. That's going to be a impact to the market where we've seen it before, where just the numbers are not good, and right now the Fed futures rate is still leaning toward a 0.25. Although last week they did creep up a little bit, so that puts 0.5 still a little bit on the table. I do think that the jobs numbers that come out this week could help shift the Fed futures rate to a little bit higher in the 0.5 if the job numbers comes in good. So as long as we're not hot on those numbers, then that puts a little bit more of the 0.5. But otherwise, Jerome Powell talking this week, it's going to have some impact. Some people obviously will tune in. We'll see what he says. I just don't think he's going to come out with anything too crazy this week, as opposed to some of the other talks that he's had. So we'll see. But we'll go from there. We got Apple. So nice little gap up. Good run, good volume on Friday from Apple. Chuck says, wasn't there a report early this morning? Some tickers moving up pre-market. I know. I don't know the specific report that came out, but I know, for instance, Apple got a little bit of upgrade from, was it Goldman Sachs? I think upgraded them, so they're moving. So we have some individual names that are moving. I'm looking at it as more continuation than anything. Right now, though, Apple is gapping into resistance. This would be the third positive day on Apple in a while. Probably needs a pullback. Looking for a retest. And the reason I'm starting with Apple today as opposed to SPY, Apple has the ability to move the markets, right? If we look into SPY, just because Apple's just on the same basis, Apple is a large part of the SPY. So we do have that little bit of a gap up in the overall market as well. I think that's mostly coming from, again, the Apple gap up. And if we're expecting Apple as a retest gap with a much larger gap, I would probably sit and say, all right, I think we probably get that at least early morning pullback. Whether we run positive, negative today, that I don't know. But what I would say is I don't think I want to be the first one to jump in with this type of gap on the SPY or on Apple into that resistance. And then we start to we fade Apple, and probably the rest of the market will start to dip a little bit with it. So really strong day for a lot of these things that we're going to look at. I'd probably be looking at, maybe after a nice strong day like that, a 50% pullback, retrace. I think the sentiment right now is still bullish, so I'm not going to go leap out of that camp. But do I want to be the first one to buy some of these things at open? And that's probably not. We got Coinbase, which I did buy some calls on Coinbase. Was it Thursday, Friday? I think it was Friday. A little bit of a pennant pattern. Right now, it does look like a bear pennant pattern. But again, if we get some just momentum in the market to the bullish, I can see this thing kind of break out. So I got my stops on my calls somewhere down there. If this thing breaks south, I'll just get out. Otherwise, I'm looking for maybe a little bit of a break to the northbound side. Yeah, Hector, good morning. Chuck says, yeah, CPI month over month. 2:30 a.m. this morning. For the US, usually I know we were having some news from China coming out overnight, and I'm not sure if that was the Chinese CPI. Let me see. Usually it wouldn't be a Monday, and usually they won't release it at 2:30 in the morning. China CPI is a 0. Yeah, let me see. Well, it doesn't matter if it's good or no, it's all bad news. It's just the market likes it good. Larry Summer says Fed should consider 50 basis points. So yeah, we got to talk of 50 basis points. And again, to the most part, the Fed futures rate, we're not at a 50-50 coin toss on the 25-50 yet. So we are still leaning towards the 0.25. At anytime we get like a Larry Summers coming out saying, yeah, we think we should go higher. The market has just been brushing it off for right now. Probably until we see the Fed future rate closer to that 50-50 coin toss, so we start actually getting a little bit more worried about it. Yeah, I don't see anything with a CPI at 2:30 in the morning, Chuck. Usually a CPI will come out about 8:30 in the morning. It's usually about an hour before the market. CHF. Yeah, I'm not so sure on that one, but yeah, I don't think we have CPI till March 14th for the US at least. So that's probably March 14th. If I was to take a stab at it, it's about 8:30 a.m. Eastern. I was just looking at some of the news coming out. I didn't see anything really crazy. All right, take a look at Tesla. So Tesla, even though the market rallied and Tesla did have a positive day on Friday, it struggled right around the 200. I think we did have a couple ticks over. I think we even got to like 201, maybe not even quite. We got to 241. This one was struggling as the rest of the rally was just kind of marching higher. So we're gonna have to watch this one. We are into a little bit of resistance at open. Again, I'm thinking that we do get some kind of pullback overall in the market. I'd say pretty high odds that we get some kind of profit taking. I still think this market's a little bit range bound. So as we start approaching on the SPY, this 405 level, and then the next one after that would be somewhere probably 410, 412 if we get a little bit higher. But even at this 405, that's coming into a little bit of resistance here. The next level up becomes 406.72. So if we do go a little bit positive before negative, most likely, I don't think we hit that at open. I think we do take the sell. Whether we're using Friday's VPOC as some kind of bounce spot, and then I think we make that move. So I could see us going a little bit higher. All of this will probably have to come in for some kind of Fibonacci pullback, 50%, 618, something like that. And then maybe this happens. We're gonna get that next little push. But right now in the zone, we don't have, the real resistance is gonna come probably somewhere up here. That's 410 to like this 412 area. Right. And then to the bottom side of things, we're looking at this somewhere in this range. So all of this right here, there is some resistance, but we're not dealing with a lot. And again, we don't really have that much news that I really think is going to come out to play in the markets until Friday. I think Friday is the bigger one that we're waiting for. So not a lot of resistance. And we're kind of in no man's land. So I'd have to continue with that bullish just momentum. It's a lot easier to go with the crowd than against it. And if we get any type of pullback whatsoever, I think that's going to be a buy opportunity until at least probably Thursday when people want to readjust some of their positions. Jay says crowd and laser. Yep, good gap on. Let's see what the weekly looks like. Again, this is going to be a retest gap. pretty sweet gap up. This one I think should fade as well. So on the weekly, we have multiple weeks now. We're positive. If we're gonna run a little bit, where I would rather try to attempt a short would be somewhere around 135.32. But we'd have to watch kind of the first couple candles on this one to see if this thing gets pulled back. Agnes is in the house. What is up, Agnes? What is happening? But yeah, this is technically a retest gap. We are clearing a lot of different pivots. And I would look for some type of short. First spot I'd be looking would be 135.32. Otherwise, maybe we get to 137.56. I would expect some profit taking. I mean, we're up even where we closed on Friday, we're up about roughly 28% from the lows, and now we're gapping a little bit higher. So again, I wouldn't be the first one to and you don't have to short it just because it's maybe not a buy at the open. If this thing pulls back and we get back down to this 126.27, I'd want to be out of my shorts, or that's where I would attempt to look long. But we'll put that pretty high on the list. Just see how it plays out. LAZR. Agnes says, sorry, late to the party, was babysitting a trade. How'd that work? Are you all out? All right. Laser, again, very similar. So we do have one stop. I'd be watching this $11.03 area very, very closely. That's probably going to be where we see the biggest resistance. So if we could get any type of green candle out of the gate on this one, run it up into anywhere close to that, and we could take a breakdown, that'd be a better spot than just coming in with a blind short. But at least with this one, we did have a little bit of wick toward the end of the day, or within the day for laser. But you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days. 6 days of buying. I think people might want to take some profits. Not a lot in the I mean, we're right in this pocket of liquidity though, so there's not really a lot of resistance. All being said, and any type of a pullback probably could get bought up. Let me see what level that one is. Decent buy spot would be about 933. 933 on a pullback, and then we start to push bullish again from there, potentially. But this technically is a retest gap, so the only thing that might give it a little bit of an extra edge is the fact we had some selling, but not a lot. Let's see, Roblox. Roblox has been on fire lately. And again, so all these things, the question is bullish, bearish. I gotta still lean bullish on most of these things. And the question is, where do we get in? Can we get any? This has been not a very good market for pullbacks and trying to get in. It's been rewarding people who are greedy, right? So after normal markets, you see 3 days like this, and you're like, I gotta wait. The markets have not been pulling back. It just goes straight up, straight down, massive in both directions, and makes it tougher. NVIDIA, I do have a plan for 240.79. I'm going to be buying some puts. I know it's going to be very difficult to do, and most likely I'll probably lose on the puts, but I've had that plan for months now. If we get back into the zone, that's where I'm going to try to attempt some puts. I'll give it some time, maybe 3 months out, something like that, and see if we can get any type of pullback reversals. It's just a spot where I've had this this little, what I think should be some type of resistance. So even though we do have a little bit of a gap down, and if we start to get above probably 247.50, then there's not a lot in the way till about 267.16. So could we get there? Of course, but I will buy some puts, start just buying a couple. That's it. I'm going to buy a couple and just see what happens on those ones. But very, Chuck is important. 30 major German companies out for 1.06R at weekly resistance. All right. Agnes is making some money before we even start the opening bell. I like that. BEA, beautiful. All right, Baba. So some of these Chinese names again have been a little bit weak. I've been watching Baba very closely just because we're at a very, very strong support on it. So this could be a decent pullback. Also, I believe I drew a fib on this thing too. I'm not sure if I was on the mic when we did it or not, but we'll just kind of redraw it, see where we're at. I think it was an interesting level. Yep. So this is right at that 50% retracement of that Baba move. So this is an interesting spot to buy the next one, 82.31, if we get down there, but not sure we do. This would be an interesting spot for us to just kind of hesitate a little bit, wait for those moving averages to kind of slowly catch up, and then maybe we could take some shares in. So right now we're just trading a little bit sideways. Decent hammer on Friday. We're not gapping above it, so it's still just kind of inside. So for day trade purpose, nothing amazing yet. But if we start getting to about $90.51, I'll probably pick up some shares, maybe some calls, and see if we could just get this as some type of rotation and make at least some move to the back to the top. Not sure if we break out or not, but it's got a lot of room to the bullish side if we do. All right, Netflix. Let's do a quick little fib on Netflix as well. Somewhere up there. This would be the 618 is where we're getting that bounce now. So again, not a bad spot to look for some kind of entries, some kind of shares. This would actually probably give us decent risk to reward too. I think if we start closing, is that a good wick? Almost like a little bit of a doji candle, but yeah, I'd say if we start getting under 310.13, that's our spot where we're like, okay, it probably pulls back a lot harder. But for right now, this would actually be a decent swing trade setup. You have about $7 of risk. To get 2 R's would be $14 from there, which would be 231, 232, somewhere in that zone. That should be very easily obtainable if this thing does pick up some legs. So Netflix will be one to watch, even for day trade purpose today. It is still inside, but I'm going to probably scoot this one a little bit higher on the list. It's not my favorite as a day trade for right now, but I definitely kind of want to watch it and see if we get some additional momentum in it. Yep. So Apple, we did take a look at very, very early. It's got a nice gap on it due to upgrade. All right. This is a massive gap up for Apple. Massive gap up after a strong day with lots of buying into a little bit of resistance. So me, I want to stick with the bullish camp, but not at open. I think this is either going to be an attempted short on a very small time frame, trying to play that retracement, and then somewhere around 150.80 would be a spot where if I could get out of all shares, or if I'm not in anything, and that would be a spot I'd be looking to try at that point to go long. So see if we get this retest first. Yeah, Baidu I did not look at. BIDU. This thing gaps just about every single day. I'm actually looking for maybe those 3 days we didn't really have too much of it. We had some inside candles, I guess. But yeah, this would be a gap and go. I wouldn't weight this gap and go as heavily as other stocks that just don't really gap as frequently. So this would be a gap and go. So if you think it's going to play out like this, we have a bunch more selling. This one, yeah, you have to, if you're going to play it, you have to play it short, right? Maybe we get some kind of a retest down to 148.67 for today. So that gives us about $2.30 to the lower side of things. Could we get a pullback that does look something similar to this? Maybe, but this is a little bit different, right? So we had This, we actually had some selling into it. This was a nice gap and go on the day. It was technically a retest gap from this one, but this gap was also clearing pivots and everything else. So this gap today is a little bit different. Just we had some momentum. I don't think we're not really upsetting too many of the bulls as to where this thing is actually gapping. Right. So if you got in anywhere from here to here, you're still profitable in the trade. You might want to watch it a little bit. Maybe you're going to shave some shares. This technically is a gap to go for anybody that got in this day, but not a lot of volume on that day as well. Right. So I don't think we're trapping that many bulls. Some. And if we get a little bit of a fade, I'm probably looking for that little retest on that VPOC is probably the best that we get today on it. But so far it does look at least a little bit different. And then again, this thing does gap almost every day. Yep. So see if we get that little bit of a pullback. Bearish at open would be the play, especially also if the rest of the market does open and pull back. I mean, this is actually maybe we get some momentum in that pullback as well. I think you guys mentioned a few other ones. Microsoft and Meta. MSFT. A little bit of a gap up. Again, still technically a retest gap. So see if we get any type of pullback, 255.23. It's not going to give us as much room as Apple might to the downside. So I don't think I could really go short on this one. It'd have to be a miniature setup. We are above too strong. This is going to be a very, very strong level. Somewhere around this 255.10. So I'd be looking for maybe some kind of small pullback, and then I'd be looking to buy the dip into it, something like this, and then maybe continue to pull out a little bit higher. Andrew says, can you see the YouTube chat? Yep, we got Square for Andrew. All right, let's go to Meta first, and then we'll cover Square. All right, Meta, same thing. Yeah, so Meta, Microsoft, Apple, a lot of gaps, a lot of retrace gaps, retest gaps from all these guys. Meta also into some resistance as well. We get this little bit of a pullback, and that's what I'm thinking for that. But I don't know if I think if I was going to play anything bullish, it'd probably be more Microsoft over Meta today. Microsoft has a lot more room in a bullish direction if we could get any type of pullback. If the market wants to give us a pullback, based on the last 2 weeks, it's been tough. Square looks decent. Again, we're going to start coming into again, number one, retest gap. I wouldn't be the first one to buy. See if you get a little bit of a pullback, get better risk reward, but this is our resistance area, and we're pretty much gapping into it. Right, so maybe we get this little bit of a pullback. I would love to see it again. This market's not doing it. This market's been a struggle bus to do it. I would like to see that pivot right here, get something a little bit deeper, and then that could maybe get some more momentum into it. But now you have 1, 2, 3, 4 days, 4 days of bullish buying. We should also this I like, right? So this little bit of doji-ish hammer with that massive amount of volume, and we've had a clear breakout Friday. Again, looking for some kind of, I would love it back down into that. That's an amazing retest doji if this could ever get back down here. Right, just kind of retesting that. We also got that VPOC that's right there as well. This is the breakout, but we do have some resistance. The fact that any of those bears that got in on that day is trapped, it's a very, very good sign for Square. But give me something. Give me some kind of pullback first. We'll see. CIEN. CIEN. Yeah. Where's this? I don't even see where this gap is. Oh, that's a massive one. I was like, I'm trying to look for this gap. I'm like, I don't see anything. Yeah, that's a massive, massive gap. Technically, again, retest gap into resistance. This one looks like it's jumping all over the place. This is yeah. Let me just see what the weekly is. What's that range on this one? It does look decent. Depends on when it's still jumping all over the place, almost in lots of like 30 cents a share. If we're starting to get any opens above 55.69, we'll have some room to run probably into about $60, $60.09. But again, there was technically a retest gap. See if we get a pullback. Again, do you want to play something this bullish as a fade? Maybe you have room. I don't know if I will. It's about $3. I don't think this gap fills, at least not today. So if anything, we probably come back. Maybe if we're lucky, we get into like a 52.11, and that would be the buy spot for it. It's a really nice gap. Really, really nice gap. Or if in the next 2 minutes and 30 seconds, this thing starts to open up a little bit higher, 55.80, somewhere in that range, then I think we get that continued momentum for a little bit. CRM. Pre-market. So this is actually a little bit of a gap down, still inside day. With everything else gapping up, it's not showing the same amount of strength yet. What was our bear move? Trying to see where that volume is. Lots of bullish volume on this thing. Let's see if we get so again, I have to lean bullish on it, and that's on a weekly chart. I'd have to lean bullish, but let's see if we can get a little bit further of a pullback first. The spot for me would be about 176.55 if we could get there. Still into, you have good stops on this thing, so it's giving you a nice range. Obviously, if this 193.72 breaks, I would be out of it for any type of bearish play whatsoever. But again, this is into resistance. I think we get some kind of almost like a meta type chart. We get some kind of a bigger pullback, and then we start to run it up again. So day trade basis, we're still hanging out into the upper end of where do I want to go short on this thing? This would be a retest short. Again, still in on Friday's action. Haven't really broken. Probably looking for maybe about that 186.43 and then continue to roll over. And then this would be my target right here, which would be, and I don't think this happens today either. It's going to take a couple days, but 176.29 would be my final target. Just be out, wait for some kind of setup. I'm going to throw this one a little bit higher on the list. If I'm going to try to fade something, that one might be interesting. But yeah, really, really nice open if you are playing anything bullish from Friday, but you have a lot of what I would expect, some kind of pullbacks on a lot of these things. But I just realized we got about 15 seconds left. So unfortunately, everybody at YouTube land is the time I got to disconnect. Make sure you guys hit that thumbs up, like, subscribe, do whatever the YouTubers say. And then we'll catch you guys all tomorrow. But we do appreciate you being here. Check out reallifetrading.com for beginner, intermediate, and advanced courses. All absolutely free. Just use the promo code always